Boy, Sega and Sonic Team sure have had an awesome weekend with the digital deluxe version of Sonic Colors Ultimate. Basically, it's been trending all week long, and the game is not even out yet. And by the time you're hearing this review, physical and regular digital copies of Sonic Color Ultimate will be available on PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, and PC. So, thanks to the kind folks over at Sonic PR and Sega PR, I was actually able to review this game for myself. And what started as an interesting look into a 3D Sonic game I had actually always missed for the longest time, it's been very interesting watching the entire internet basically decide that this is the new Hindenburg of Sonic games, or at least for forgetting Sonic Forces. And as I mentioned earlier, I have never played Sonic Colors, the traditional one. I've played Sonic Colors on the DS. I was a huge fan of the Rush games and Rush Adventure, and basically that kind of just being part of the trilogy on DS in my brain, I was like, okay, well, even though I have a Wii, I didn't really want to play Sonic Colors. I just knew it as that one Sonic game that had a really good intro. So, Sonic Colors Ultimate. No, I'm sorry to say, everybody, it is not the most broken, hilarious, big Wii mess disaster of the year. But it's really interesting, just kind of in the case of it fails at really easy things it's trying to do, and even the little things that you would almost kind of expect to be there being absent just make it more painful when you look at the package as a whole. So to save you all from wondering, if this is launch day and you somehow are stumbling across this review or this video down the line, no, at $40 I would not say this is worth it on any platform. $30 is getting a lot more reasonable, and obviously I do not expect this to stay at $40 for very, very long in the current state of the kind of discourse with it. But Sega has definitely not done themselves any favor with this title, and unfortunately this kind of also has to fall under the blame of the developer who ported it in the side of Blind Squirrel Games. Now, Blind Squirrel Games has actually done a lot of really good work, especially when it comes to ports. I really loved their work with the BioShock collection, Borderlands, as well as they even did the very well-received Mass Effect Legendary Edition this year. So they have a really good pedigree of making ports and being generally pretty favored in terms of games getting re-released. So this video is not going to be about what went wrong in terms of development, because guess what? Up until release on last Friday, no one knew that there were any problems with this game, because you would kind of hope that porting a Wii game is just make it look prettier, make it run a little bit faster, and have hopefully a better product than the one you started with all those years ago. And even taking the 2010 Sonic Colors, unfortunately, you kind of get a mixed bag. So, the majority of the new features here are really just in the presentation department in terms of what's handled well, for the most part. Now, obviously, like I said, I did not play the original, so I'm not going to be comparing them too much, and everything I saw was, for the most part, pretty fine visually. It definitely had a lot of issues in certain aspects. So, on PlayStation 4, via PlayStation 5 backwards compatibility, which is how I played the game, it ran at a totally smooth 60. Now, while the game may run at 4K 60 on Xbox, PC, and PlayStation, it unfortunately does not run at 4K. It is also only locked to 30 frames on the Switch, and this obviously is probably not going to be a deal breaker for many people, but I think should have been a bit of a telltale sign that there are some problems in terms of how this game got to the state of release where it's at right now. Now, my final playthrough for the first time took me a little over 5 hours. And along with getting some extra trophies, getting footage for this review, and just kind of messing around with the game, I've played a little under 10 hours so far before making this review. And what's kind of really funny is I really didn't have very many technical issues when I played pre-launch. So I was actually playing before the digital deluxe release. And so far there have been 3 patches since then, and they haven't really done too much on the PlayStation end to make it more stable, and I am now getting progressively more and more crashes. There's even footage I have of me just going through the first couple of stages, not doing anything crazy, not even really going that fast by the game standards, and I've had it hard lock, soft lock, all kind of locks. I've had the game crash. And it's really, really weird because there's no kind of consistency with it. I never had a single crash or issue on my first playthrough, but now that I've beaten the game has decided I am no longer worthy of a technical-free experience, which is really disappointing. Now, kind of going back to more of the HD remaster facts of it, things they added. So they added customization. It's a total snooze. At least for me personally, I could care less about adding Sonic color gloves, aura, or even boost trails, or even his shoes. Is it nice that it's there? Sure, but I think for even majority fans like me, and I would consider myself a Sonic fan, it does literally nothing for me. Having it there is fine as a collectible, but outside of checking out the movie Sonic skins that came with the more expensive edition of the game, it was like, oh yeah, it kinda looks like movie Sonic while still definitely not being movie Sonic. The rest of the customization stuff is a player icon system, which is really weird because it's not like you're showing it off to other people. It's just kind of an excuse to buy JPEGs of Sega and Sonic history, which, hey, I got to look at something that had Rez, Panzer Dragoon, Jet Set Radio, and Shenmue in it, and I was very, very happy. But I think for a Sonic game, it adds absolutely nothing to the experience, and just kind of makes you wonder why this is something you can even spend currency on to begin with. Now, next up, in terms of new things we have to talk about, they added a new Wisp. So basically, in Team Sonic Racing, a couple of years back, they invented a new Wisp, which was called the Jade Wisp, which basically just kind of turns you into a ghost. And by adding it into this game, you'd think, oh, cool, it's a new way to traverse each of the levels, new experiences. Not really as exciting. You're basically at your slowest in this form, and all it lets you do is go through certain walls you might not be able to without it. And it's easily the most forgettable power-up in the whole game. Going between light speed, drilling through walls, doing coin chains, eating up tons of enemies and boxes. Even the power-up that is literally just you turn into a blue box and do a flip between blue rings and blue boxes is more exciting than the new one, which is kind of sad in retrospect. Now, finally, on the major new additions, they added Rival Rush, which is something you would think is kind of cool until you play it and then realize, oh my god, this isn't a mod, this is actually like something you added into the game to be proud of. So basically, you are now, if you collect a certain amount of rings in a certain planet, Metal Sonic will challenge you to a race. He will pick a single stage. It is always predetermined, so it's not like every stage can be a race between you and Metal Sonic. And a Metal Sonic model, for no contextual reason in the story at all, is racing you in the story. I never really found them all that challenging. The model has no special unique animations, there's no dialogue, and while there is unique music with it, it was just kind of one of those things of, okay, racing against him's not fun, the reward for beating him isn't fun, and everything surrounding it presentationally just seems like someone did a mod on the game, and I kind of wish I could uninstall the mod. Now, talking about music, though, that gets into another weird problem of new things they added and weird questions about why they did it the way they did. So now every planet, and for the most part every area, is going to have new music. So each planet has 6 acts in total. The first 3 acts are all remixes, and the next 3 acts are from the original game. Okay, it's nice that it has both in there as an option. The problem being, why can't you just select if you want to listen to the remix or the original for each level? Or why can't you just kind of make a toggle for the whole game? Obviously, almost the entire soundtrack is there from the original game, so clearly this could be done in a patch, and the fact that you're sort of forced to listen to the new arrangements is odd. I didn't have any problem with them. I thought they bordered on either inoffensive to mundane, and I preferred the original track very much so, even comparing them both for the first time. Now, extra weird shout out, and not in a good way, to the theme song I mentioned earlier. For some reason, they remixed and rearranged the original theme song, Reach for the Stars, which is an okay remix. It's much more slowed down. The problem with that, though, being they arranged it and they never included the opening from the original. The visuals are all obviously the same from the pre-rendered cutscene, and even in the soundtrack player in the bonus menu, there's no way to play the original song. So why the original song of this remaster is not here, I don't know if it would be a rights thing or whatnot, because for the most part, the remix and arrangement is still using all the same assets from that other song. It's just kind of mixed around and different instruments are used in place of it, so it's really, really weird. It's like, hey, your job was to just bring this game over, not take anything out. And obviously, it's not that big of a deal, but for someone like me who was very nostalgic for Reach for the Stars, that was a really big bummer, that it's like, hey, there's an arrangement. I'm not a huge fan of it, and I don't get to listen to the original. So it's like an extra disappointment, unfortunately. Now, last little things, I do want to at least talk about the game. I have always heard that Sonic Colors was a pretty solid back to basics, in quotes, attempt at Sonic Team kind of going back to things, and I just kind of always took that on its word of like, okay, I'm sure it's fine, I'm sure it's for the most part good, and blah blah blah. But whatever nostalgia goggles people might have had for that game, unfortunately do not fit my overly large head. And Sonic Colors to me, outside of a few moments and a few stages, is like, it's good when it's going fast, but almost all of the times in platforming, unless it's very specific to the Wisp and their power-ups, platforming just as Sonic by himself is not very fun and not very satisfying. Each of the levels have great designs in terms of their theme park aesthetics, going into the roller coaster level, the like bright colors and the awesome environments are such a fun thing to explore and go through, but when these stages are either really awesome but super short or super long and really annoying, it kind of just always leaves me not only wanting more but wanting better, which is really disappointing. And even going back to this with the boss fights, for the first 3 boss fights, I was like, oh, this is really good. I like these formulas. These are interesting boss mechanics of Ferris wheels, ships, a racing segment. And I was like, all right, this is interesting. I want to see where I really want to see where the game takes the boss formula. Unfortunately, the rest of the bosses in the game are literally just copy and paste reskins and a little bit tiny, tiny, tiny differences from the original. So the game only really has 3, if you're being generous, 4 original bosses, and the other 3 are all just copy and pasted from the others. So levels left me wanting more, but were inoffensive at worst. Bosses started hopeful, but just ended up feeling like a sloppy, messy copy and paste job. And I wish I had more nice things to say about this, but also at the same time, going back to the original, this also isn't like the most offensive thing I've ever played. I would much rather play this than Sonic Forces. Even something more extreme like a Balan Wonderland is way, way, way more offensive and way more technically kind of all over the place from my experience. So, while it's definitely a disappointment, so from my perspective, while it can definitely have a lot of issues technically in terms of visual presentation, maybe some weird lighting, and even crashing and stuff like that, it's definitely not like setting any new standards for worst blank of 2021, unless we're talking about the credits, which for some reason they extended the credits to add all of the new people who worked on Ultimate, which is fine, you should credit all of those people. The problem is they never added music for the new credits, and the credits now total almost half an hour of you just looking at words go by you at a very slow pace. And I appreciate everyone who worked assumingly very hard on this project, but just loop some music, do something. Might be one of the most numbingly sad and boring credits I've ever experienced in my entire existence playing video games. But that is sadly how we are coming to an end of this video. Once again, thank you though to Sonic Team for at least being open enough to give someone like me a chance to review the game and to talk about it. I hope I have at least, if not stopped you from purchasing it, which is not really the goal of this. It's like, hey, if you enjoyed this game, I'm sure you will still enjoy it in its current state. But if you're someone like me who is maybe thinking of spending $40 right away at launch for this, maybe wait for a sale, maybe pick it up at $30. It's definitely got its merits. It's just a really sloppy job right now, especially at launch. But I am at least optimistic. Sega and now Blind Squirrel have commented they are committed to patching this game. They are committed to at least updating it, hopefully adding new things, adding other options in. So fingers crossed this gets better, but right now the review of the game that is out today, available worldwide for everyone, it's just disappointing, unfortunately. Either way, let me know what you think of the review. Thank you again so much for watching. If you enjoyed it and want other videos like this, please consider subscribing. Let me know what you think of Sonic Colors in the comments below. Maybe I'm horrendously wrong, or maybe you have questions. I will be glad to answer them and talk to you all down in the comments. Either way, have a good one, and thank you again so much for watching.